Hi, good morning, and welcome to the ZP Developer Zone. So we like to do this Developer Zone once a week, and it's really answering questions that have come in during the week. So I'll basically jump straight into it and say today's the 29th of February. So we obviously only have this 4 times or once every 4 years because this year's a leap year. But that said, let me jump straight into it. So today we answer a technical question that's come in during the week, and I'll get to it. And it's basically on CGM, continuous glucose monitoring. It's probably worth saying that at ZP we're very sort of key these days on actually leveraging our entire technology stack. And I realize that I should have brought a couple of items which are just down there, so I might lean down and get them in a little bit. But when I talk about a technology stack, whether we're talking about wearables or we're talking about IVDs, in vitro diagnostics, we describe ourselves as kind of sensor to API. What this really means, API in this context is application programming interface. This is the way of kind of making the modern world stick together. It's used in a lot in the financial services when train timetables talk to each other. This is all using APIs. And we're also kind of very keen to kind of get data. And when I say from field to cloud, this is could be environmental monitoring, getting the data up to the cloud, or this could be person to cloud, which is very relevant to today's question, which is really about CGM, continuous glucose monitoring. And even if you're going to do that, I think there's got to be a cloud aspect to this. So this is what we will discuss a bit today. As I say, I did have a few items in the office that I was going to bring to this conversation. Now this person's definitely asking about continuous glucose monitoring, which is wearables or implanted application. We also do a lot of IVD, in vitro diagnostics, where we essentially bring a sample to the sensor, get a result, and essentially that's the end of the kind of use of that sensor. Whether it's CGM or whether it's whether it's CGM, which is continuous monitoring, or discrete testing, it is all about getting some hardware into people's hands as quickly as possible, so actually they can start using it with real people. They could be just alpha and beta testers, but I think too many people, and we talk about this in our monthly webinars, we have a 2-year manifesto at ZP, is how can you get people onto the market as quickly as possible, or at least near to market, because otherwise people spend 10 to 15 years kind of and are not successful at the end of it. So we try to be successful fast. And that's because we have a stack of technologies, including the cloud. This is called Julie. You can actually find Julie online. Our hardwares, whether we're prototyping or whether we're making products, they all talk to the cloud in some way. And that means you can get to see your real data in real time, or your client data. And we do understand patient confidentiality, so we know you can't put patient data necessarily up on the cloud, so we do understand that. But we are putting the data. By putting the data into the cloud and allowing you to see it in real time, you can really make sure that everything's working okay. So there's a philosophy there, sort of a built-in quality control. It's probably worth coming to one of our webinars on the 26th of March. I know that link says January, but honestly, I've updated all the links. So it's the 26th of March. It's worth coming to one of our webinars. It's probably also worth saying that when people ask questions, we're happy to answer them. These people are asking the question, what are our capabilities? And so that's easy. But really, if the questions are technical, then ZP's business model, we are ISO 13485, and it says in our ISO certification, which means that we're qualified to do medical diagnostics, for the contract development and manufacture of medical devices, and that includes CGM. We also do workshops, so if you're interested in actually understanding CGM in practicalities, we do a workshop every month as well, which includes CGMs, wearables, and IVDs. And these are practical workshops. For larger corporations, we actually come on site and do workshops on site with people. So the question is, I'm working on developing a continuous glucose monitor. Can we, I presume, manage the process, or can you, the manage of flexible implantable glucose sensors, or suggest another technique like microneedles? Let me just grab something quickly. Yep, I got it. Okay, thanks. All right, so I'll carry on. So I will address these questions. So this is all about CGM. By the way, we're also pretty experienced in CLM as well, continuous lactate monitoring as well. So we do have the skin. So when I say the dermis, that's the epidermis, that's the top layer of the skin here. and then you have the sort of underneath bit, the dermis, and then the subcutaneous tissue, which is where the how do I describe it? The interstitial fluid is. Just out of interest, side note, but I did see that, and at the FDA this week, it actually said they put a statement out there. I'll read it in more detail and probably summarize it at some point. But I think the statement is, people, you really can't trust non-invasive glucose monitoring. When they talk about non-invasive glucose monitoring, they were, I think they're referring to, there's some watches you can get on Amazon that say that they're CGM or they're glucose monitoring, and it's not, I don't say it's not true, but the FDA is saying you can't rely on them. And they're also talking about rings as well, that people are trying to make claims that you can do continuous glucose monitoring through rings. These kind of claims have been going on for 2 decades now, and nobody's ever been successful with non-invasive glucose monitoring. If you get one of our workshops, come to one of our workshops, you can hear a lot about the history of non-invasive glucose monitoring. Anyway, that's not the question. At ZP, we definitely have transdermal sensors like this, in this kind of wire format. This is kind of like Abbott, Dexcom and Medtronic, the way they do it. We also have microneedles, so that's what I'm just grabbing just this minute. I think ZP may be one of the leading microneedle developers for CGM. Our business model is different. This is the microneedle patch, and it goes on the back of the watch here. This is this tech has had about 20 million invested in it easily so far. So we're really selective in who we'll actually partner with and who we'll discuss this technology with. But we do have those microneedles. It's backed up by 50 patents, and we also have the capability of doing things like sweat. But for glucose, I'm not going to go there. I think first of all, it flies in the face of the FDA. Just said, look, if you're not breaking the skin, I think it is in the FDA statement. Then they didn't say you've no chance of accuracy, but they're sort of saying they're not very supportive of it. So I'm not going to go into the sweat, though we are capable, and we're also doing implanted as well, and I will discuss that today. I think, in my opinion, at ZP we can do wire, implanted, or microneedles, and it really depends on how much funding you've got, what's the uniqueness of your business model, we're quite. You'll probably see today we're quite capable of all three. So let me jump into it a little bit. So this is an example. This is a system that we have where we actually have, that looks like one of those transdermal CGMs that I just sort of was trying to highlight on the other page. The wires bringing the signal in. This is the electronics here. And this device has power here and a transducer here. And we are sending, so it's not this is Abbott's Freestyle Libre 2, but the technology that's in here is pretty similar to the technology that's in here. But we're actually implanting this into fish. It sounds ridiculous, but you can understand the amount of investment and the robustness that we've had to achieve in order to implant this into fish is so not trivial. I mean, we are talking millions of euros have gone into doing this, and now these 2 fish actually have these sensors implanted into them. I do understand that you can't put lithium-ion batteries into people, but that said, if you take out the lithium-ion batteries and replace it with a kind of a telemetry charging source, or basically you can't put batteries or capacitors so much into people. I understand that. That said, we do actually have that technology stack, and it's something we're doing, and we are getting glucose data out of fish, and we're also now moving this into land animals as well. So we'll have fish and animal studies soon on this technology. Your question was whether we can do, you said flexible. Well, flexible is fine for us. We do flexible materials all the time for our biosensors. In fact, when I think about our website, we do actually have some flexible glucose sensors. And you also ask whether we can do implanted. Well, I've just shown you a case on implanted, and we also can do microneedles as well. In this video, the operator is showing you actually a version of this. On the back side of these, there's a docking port, and those docking ports take these carriers, and these carriers have microneedles on them that have been functionalized to be sensitive to glucose, and we have something like 50 patents on this. So measuring glucose on a watch or bracelet worn on the wrist is something that ZP has a lot of experience in. As I said, the technology stack has easily had 20 million spent on it. It's so expensive to do CGM, I can assure you. And that's something that we will license and work on with well-funded clients. So your question really comes down to, so you're working on CGM, challenging, and I salute you. Can we manage the process of manufacturing? Yes, we can. In fact, we do manufacturing, and our technology is, when set up correctly with the client correctly and all the deals and fundings in place, we will do it for human use. And we can suggest other techniques like microneedles. Whether you go for implanted, transdermal wires or microneedles is something that you can pay us and you consult on us, and we can discuss that. So thank you very much. If you've got any more questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. Okay, thanks so much.